What's up, buddies? This is Toops from Magic Strange Studios, aka Something Awful Forums. Um, we're going to talk today about something that I have been spending a lot of time on, and I'm pretty fucking excited about, which it's something I'm calling the Solar Plebeian Asset Paaarpline. Now you may be asking yourself, Toops, what is an asset Paarpline? I've never heard of that. Well, basically I break this down in 5 steps. First step, 3D mesh. You have to have a 3D object to start from. The second step is to generate textures. And this is kind of the stimperial process of peeling away the surface or the skin of a 3D object and laying it out flat on a 2D surface. So a good example, in fact a great fucking example, this is probably a genius level example, is a baseball. So imagine a baseball in 3D. It's a ball, it's round, and it's got those seams, right, with the leather covering. Imagine you pop those little seams off, just pop them right off, peel the baseball leather coating out and lay it down flat. It's not going to look like a ball, dude. It's going to look all wavy and weird. That's creating textures. So the particular type of rendering pipeline that I'm using is called PBR. It stands for physically based rendering. And in a nutshell, physically based rendering is taking a 2D texture, right, and breaking it out into a bunch of different textures, each one of which describes a different property of how light bounces off of that object, right? And the big ones for the particular one I'm using, which is metallic and roughness, is how metally is that texture, right? You know, when you're looking at a sheet of something, you look at it and be like, I think that's made out of metal. That is definitely made out of metal. You can just tell. It's hard to describe how you can tell, and actually the math behind it is probably something I can't even fucking fathom. But metallicness or metalness is one of the main properties. And that's generated with its own 2D texture. There's also roughness, which is exactly what it sounds like. You know, it's like the difference between scuffed up concrete and, you know, like tree bark or like polished marble. Those all have different roughnesses, which you can express with a 2D texture. So with that background, let's fucking get into it. So I've been using this kind of genius program called Substance Designer. It blows my mind every day. So what I have here is a gray box. This is what they call the gray box phase. The reasons are fairly obvious because this is a gray fucking box, right? So the first thing we do is create a new substance. Now, here's what I was talking about. I can use specular glossy, metal roughness, which is the one I'm going to use. There are a bunch of other different kind of workflows, but metallic roughness works really well with Unity. So the ship we're going to be working on is the Gunrathi Scout. I'm going to call it 002 because I've already done this once to make sure I didn't fuck this up on camera. And we've now created some stuff. So we have right now 4 outputs. We have a base color. We have the normal map. This is what describes basically what angle that the light bounces off of each pixel. Right? These are all 2D textures, by the way. These are the 2D textures I was talking about. The roughness map, again, how scuffed up is it, and the metallic map. We're going to add a couple other ones. And this, if this is looking like magic to you, that's because it actually literally is magic. I'm adding now an ambient occlusion output, and if you're not sure what ambient occlusion is, it's like how light is reflected, how reflected light is reflected. You can think of it that way. So like a crack in the wall is not going to bounce light off that's already bounced. It's going to kind of swallow light. That's a really stupid fucking definition of it, but we're just going to go with it. And the last one I'm going to generate here is a height map. So I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to go to height. And we're good. I'm actually going to call this height. So it's not output 1, and I don't know what the fuck it is later. And this is ambient. Cool. So the next activity that we got to do here is we got to import the assets. So I'm going to link to the 3D mesh that I'm going to be operating on. And I'm actually going to edit over this part because it's going to pull up the file browser and you're going to see my name on it. And I don't want to show you my real name. So there's just been a lot of fucking doxing going on lately, and I'm just fucking not that into it. All right, so now I've imported the Pirate's spaceship. And that's how easy it is. Like, I gotta take a minute. What I just did there was I dragged that in there, and like a fucking bajillion math calculations just happened. So this is what we would call the gray box. This is just the 3D model, and with a super boring skin. It's a gray box. There's no textures applied. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import the diffuse or albedo texture, which is going to describe how color is applied to this thing. And again, I'm going to edit here so you don't see my real name. All right, so I've pulled in this albedo map, and this particular texture was a really good one. I got this off CG Trader, and it came with really, really good UV unwrap. But if you want to take a look at how fucked up the UV unwrap process is, have a look at this. What is this? What is that? What is happening? What? So that's the UV unwrap process. It's like a total mindfuck, dude. All right, so there's some really cool filters that this program comes with. And the one I'm going to use is this bitmap to material. What's going on in here is pretty wild, and I'm not going to get into it, but just I'm so thankful. I mean, this program costs like 18 bucks a month. Fucking crazy, dude. So I'm going to run this bitmap into the input here for the bitmap diffuse, and it also has an input for metallic. And so I'm going to pull in the default metallic map and I'll run that in there. Pretty cool, pretty simple. So now I have a bunch of outputs that then I can map to my final outputs. And it's worth noting that each one of these, when I import this into Unity, each one of these is going to be a texture that's made available to the Unity material system. So the whole challenge here is I'm creating material in a different computer program, and then I have to import it into Unity. Luckily, Substance Designer and the Unity teams have worked together very closely, and you'll see the process is fucking seamless. It really is almost magical. It kind of blows my mind. So I'm going to map the diffuse output there, the normal output, and I'm just gonna pause for a minute. Okay, I'm just gonna take a fucking little minute. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna right click, we're gonna apply that to the 3D view. And boom, magically, we went from this fucking weird shit to boom. Now, normal maps, I'm not sure if this is true, okay? I heard this from a goon. I can't verify if it's true, but I'm gonna assume it's true. And I feel justified in doing that. Do you wanna know why? Because we have been fucking lied to so many times by Cloud Imperium Games that I don't fucking care if this is true. But this is about Sig here, and I'm looking directly at you, Christopho Robertson. All right? Apparently, this fucking guy doesn't believe in normal maps. He thinks they're cheating. He doesn't believe in normal maps. Wondering what a normal map is? Here, let me show you. See this kind of bumpiness that's happening right here? Right? That's not the 3D mesh doing that. That's a flat 3D surface. This thing is telling the light to bounce off of it in a way that gives it the illusion of having depth. And I'll kind of exaggerate that process here. This is, again, more magic. I'm going to go to relief, and I'm going to go normal strength. Watch what happens in that window when I bump up this normal strength. Look at that shit. It gives it the illusion of height. Do you see that? I'm going to bump it back down. You see that? Now, why the fuck wouldn't you want to use this? Why wouldn't you use this to your advantage? How is this fucking cheating? Here's a newsflash. 3D models are cheating too. Those aren't real, that's not a real spaceship. You're using a 3D model to pretend it's a real spaceship. That's cheating. Fucking normal maps. How are you against it? You know what you'd have to do? You'd have to make every little tiny fucking bump in here. Every little fucking bump and nodule, every little P101 you want to put on there, you'd have to do that with 3D fucking vertices. You know how many vertices this thing would have? To fucking 3D model every little fucking bump? Every little P101. Millions of fucking vertices to do that. It would take days and days and days for the best of the best fucking 3D artists to do that. Why wouldn't you use a fucking normal map, dude? Alright, fucking rant over, dude. But seriously, use a fucking... Who's fucking against normal maps? Alright, we're going to continue with this process. I'm very upset. Very upset. We're going to run the roughness to the roughness. Now, look at that shit. Dude, that just kind of popped right there. Do you see that shit? That just fucking popped. So roughness describes, the more rough this is, obviously, the less shiny it's going to look. Roughness is the opposite of his glossiness. You can think of it as like a clear coat of paint on your car. All right, so check this out. So this is too rough. This looks kind of like concrete, like this is made out of stone or concrete or something like that. We don't want this. This is a fucking spaceship. You can't make fucking spaceships out of fucking concrete, dude. All right. So I'm going to tweak this roughness right here. Let's just see what happens. Oh, bam. Oh, what's that? Look at that shit. Glossy, 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 dude. So let's look at what effect that had. Look how shiny that motherfucker is now. Look at that shit. It's like I put a coat of paint on it. Clear coat or something. Now, as cool as this is, I can actually control these values inside of Unity by exposing these parameters. Don't even fucking ask me how that works. Like, I don't know what kind of black magic they'd use to do that, but they did. So I can do this pretty cool thing. So before I do that, I'm going to attach the rest of these outputs. All right, we've got a metallic output here. Attach that there. And now you can see, now we're cooking with fucking gas, dudes. Look at that shit, right? Got some metallic action going on. All right, we got our ambient occlusion map here. Run that output there. Now we're fucking cooking, right? And then finally the height map. All right. I want to be able to tweak these. You can see here, these are the different textures, right? They're different variants of the original albedo texture. Substance Designer is actually rendering this thing and sending it to my video card. And it's using a set of shaders that are custom to Substance Designer. These are not the same shaders that Unity uses. And Unity has to cut some corners that Substance Designer does not. So this will look different in Unity than it does here. It's kind of a bummer, but it's just the way of the world. So in order to control that and have some influence over what these textures look like once it's imported in Unity, I'm gonna do some fucking magic. This should probably blow your mind. If it doesn't, that's okay, but it definitely should. I'm gonna add levels. If you don't know what levels are, it's basically controlling the input and output brightness and darkness levels and being able to balance that. So here's where the magic happens. I right click this guy and I go expose parameters, right? This is going to level and low, level and high. If I check these guys, it's going to expose these parameters in Unity. It'll blow your mind when you see it in just a minute here. But I'm going to go ahead and do that and skip ahead so I don't bore you with just checking boxes.